Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. Today I'm going to talk to you about metronomes, which you can see I have two of in the front of the camera here, and I'll show you a bit later on. But I'm going to talk to you about metronomes, what we use them for, what they're good for doing with, and how you actually use them as well. Metronomes were founded in, the early 19th century. It was patented by Johann Mazel. So he first came up with the idea for metronomes. Metronomes are really good for keeping in time, so keeping the consistency of the beat. They're a really good way of practicing techniques as well, so starting really slow and getting faster, that kind of thing. It's really good for passage work as well, when you've got a lot of really fast technical bits that perhaps you can't get your fingers around on the piano or maybe on the violin as well. I'll do some demonstrations of that a little bit later on. They're really good for click tracks as well. So for example, drummers use them a lot when they're doing perhaps recording or when they're playing, so they have a click track in an earpiece, so they can keep in time when they're drumming. I use them as well when I'm recording for my violin album. I use click tracks all the time for that, so I can help keep in time, especially if some of the other parts that I need are absent. And it's just, they are actually just a really good indication of what actual speed to take a piece. So sometimes, I mean, you might not have anything on a piece of music, say a really old piece. This is a piece of Bach music, so there's nothing on there. So I pretty much have to more or less guess what's going on there. But you might have, say, 120 or 84 crotchet beats per minute or something like that. And then that's when you can use the dial on the metronome to go to said number that you have on the piece of music, and that will give you at least an indication of speed. There are two real main types of metronomes. You've got your pendulum type metronomes, which are these ones. So these don't require any batteries at all, and these are just in the form of wind up. So there's a pendulum mechanism, working inside there. These come in all different kind of shapes and sizes and forms as well. This is real wood, so this was quite an expensive one, but this I inherited from an old musician friend of mine many years ago. But you can get them from anywhere these days. Some of them are sort of plastic looking, but I mean or the housing is plastic, but it doesn't really matter. It just depends whether you prefer a pendulum, so whether you like to see it ticking left or right as well. So as well as actually when you're playing along or playing the violin, whatever, as well as you actually hearing the clicking going on, you can see a pendulum kind of moving left and right, so you can see the beat moving as well as just hearing it. The other different types are sort of ones that are like these, electronic. So this is battery operated. You can get various different forms of these. I would just say, don't get a cheap version. You can get some cheap ones on eBay and things for like £5 or something. They're awful because they're not particularly reliable. You don't know whether the beat is accurate. If they do have, some of them have tuning aids on them as well. So this has an A tuned into it. So if I'm out and about and I don't have a tuning fork, or I don't know what to tune my violin to, or my violin's out of tune and I haven't got an A to tune it to, for example, I can use this. So that's 440 Hertz, which gives me an A. So that should be accurate. So to me in this room anyway, I don't know what that's like on camera, but it does sound exactly matches up with my digital piano. So I know that this is 100% or as close to a really 100% accuracy as possible. So some of the cheaper ones, you might not always be able to trust the accuracy on them as well. And the beats don't tend to click very loud, so when you're playing along, the beat isn't piercing through, so you can't hear it so much. So this is the tick. There's a little red light on there as well, for example. So that's a nice tick that kind of cuts through the music when I'm playing, so I can still hear it nonetheless. So those are your two different types of metronome that you've got. It really doesn't matter which one you go for. If you do go for like a digital kind of electronic one, don't go for anything too cheap. Buy cheap, buy twice, as the old saying goes, and you'll end up paying 15, 20 odd quid for a much better one anyway. So it's entirely up to you which one you want to go for. They both do exactly the same job. It just depends whether you want to have a pendulum ticking or not, and whether you like the aestheticness of it as well. So if you like it sitting on the side of your piano looking nice and metronome and things like that, just entirely up to you. I tend to use the metronome for practice mostly, and I advise my students to do that. Now, some people don't like using metronomes for things, but I like using metronomes to a certain extent. I like using metronomes as a means to an end, but I wouldn't say that you have to go metronome crazy and use a metronome all the time, because you'll find that a metronome, although it will keep you in time and it will give you that strict discipline of having a consistent beat, and that's very, very good, especially for students who don't automatically have that inbuilt inside them. You don't want to be using the metronome all the time, or you'll tend to come out with a somewhat wooden performance. That would be great in something like a piece of Bach, but a total nightmare in something like Chopin. However, if you were practicing a particular section of Chopin, or whoever it was, the metronome is very good for just getting the discipline of the notes and getting your fingers in order and trying to sort that out. Once you've nailed that particular passage, you can take away the metronome. It's served its purpose, and you can get back on into kind of fitting it in with the music and everything. So, how you use them? Well, they're very easy to set. You've just got numbers along the front of the metronome here. So they are a little bit faded away, but you've got numbers all along here, and this you would just, sorry it's very difficult to do this way, you would just, the top of this, the line of this dial here would just be in line with one of these numbers, so you would just flip it up and down, depending on where you wanted or what number beat you wanted. This one is much easier because it's just a dial, so I would just turn this round and see the red dot moving here. The red dot just moves wherever I want it to move to. So as a practice tool, I've got a piece of Bach here. It's just a load of semiquavers, and I'm just going to show you how I would use to practice this. So I'm a little bit rusty at this. I haven't played this in a long time, so a metronome would be perfect for something like this because I don't need to vary the speed at all. It is just boom, one speed. So I think I'm going to use my pendulum metronome. And I'm going to set it very slow because I haven't played this in so long. I really want to start by playing it off slow first, and then what I'm going to do is gradually increase the speed. So when you're first starting out with a piece of music, I quite often find with students that they tend to want to play everything so fast and they stop at the bits they can't do. So the whole thing is fast, slow, it's fast on the bits they can do and then it's really slow on the bits they can't do. I hate it when that happens because I always think it's much better to have everything really, really slow but perfect, because then it's much easier to lift the whole thing up and make it a lot faster rather than trying to bring the varying speeds, up to the same, or trying to match them all at the same speed and things. So I'm going to start this off quite slow, maybe. That's probably a bit too slow, so maybe about, I've got this set at, say, let's say set it about 100. So this is roughly 100, 102, something like that. So I'm just going to let the metronome settle. That's enough of that, otherwise this video will be really long. So I would just continue on like this. So I would just play all of this at that speed. It's a nice, safe, comfortable speed. Everybody's happy with that. And then what would actually happen eventually is that quite possibly I would come to a section that I think, oh, perhaps I'm not so good at that. So what the metronome will do is highlight those sections that you're perhaps not so good at. And then what you can do is stop the metronome and just focus on that particular bar. I don't know, just picking one at random here. So I would just practice practice that bar round and round and round over and over and over again until I was happy with it, and then I could join it in with the rest of the music. So playing with a metronome is not only very good to keep everything, to keep that inner metronome, to keep you chugging along at the same consistent speed, but it's also very, very good at highlighting parts that you're not so technically secure on, and then you can sort of circle those parts or write them down, whatever, and then go back to it at the end and work on those particular sections. So let's just say I'd sorted out any kind of odd, funny little bars. What I would do then is maybe add 5 beats onto the metronome. So I had this set at around about average of 100. So let me just set it up to about 112. That might be a little bit too much of a jump, but I'm just kind of jumping up to 112-ish just to save a little bit of time. So this is about 112, so it's going to be a bit faster now. So then I would carry on like that at that speed, and assuming I was happy and I could play it through several times at that speed, time to jump it up to the next one. So I'm going to increase it to about 130 now. I know it's a bit of a jump, but I'm just trying to save time. So on and so on. So you increase the jumps as you feel happy. If you feel happy kind of jumping at this kind of level, then that's absolutely fine, whatever you're happy. If you find that you've gone a little bit too fast, take it down a little bit. So then I would increase it a little bit more. So on until I was more or less happy at that speed. So that speed is about 160. I'd probably say it's quite a good speed for this, in and around there. I might want to play it a touch faster, but you know, that's up to me if I wanted to do that. So that's how I would use the metronome, and that's how I would practice it. It would be a very good tool for keeping something consistently in speed and in time. It's very good if you don't have that inner metronome and you perhaps need a little bit of help. So whereas I might clap for some of my students in the lesson, obviously I'm not there the 6 days of the week, so this is where metronome comes in handy. But it's also very good at highlighting parts that perhaps you didn't think you weren't very good at, but of course the metronome highlights that out for you. So that's how I would use that. Now, there are different ways of using the metronome. So when you've got something like largo or adagio or just an Italian term at the front of your piece of music, you can use the metronome markings as a rough guidance. So on here, andante is anywhere between, I don't know, 126 and 152. So if you wanted to take the middle number of that, that would work just as well. It's just to give you a rough guide. If you've got something like, I don't know, crotchet equals 120. That's going to be 120 crotchet beats per minute. So within 1 minute, as 1 minute has passed, there's going to be 120 beats. It's a little bit like driving a car. So if you're driving at 30 miles an hour, you're going to be doing 30 miles inside of 1 hour. Between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, you'll have covered 30 miles, and so on and so on. So this was actually, this whole piece here, this Bach prelude was actually in 4/4. So there is 4 crotchet beats in a bar, and this was beating every crotchet. Now, if I was playing something really slow, or I had that set really slowly, and I didn't think it was beating fast enough for me, or I didn't think there were many clicks or enough clicks for me to keep in time with, you can actually double that up. So if I had, if I put this to if I wanted to play it at that speed, that would be around about 100, which is what I had it originally. But say for me that's not quite enough, and I want it to beat a little bit faster. I don't want to play at that speed, but So I want twice as many claps or twice as many metronome clicks in there, but I still want to play it at the same speed because I just can't hear it. I just can't keep in time enough. So what you would then want to do is I took that to about 200. So I doubled it. So I wasn't doubling my speed. I wasn't literally doubling the speed. Instead of it clicking every crotchet, it was clicking every quaver, or clicking every semi-quaver. So you can have it, if you're playing something really slow and it's not ticking enough, you can double the speed, and instead of having it ticking every crotchet, you can have it ticking every quaver or semi-quaver or whatever the time signature your piece of music is in. The same you can, I could have had it set at 100 and I can play at double speed so it doesn't tick enough, so it doesn't tick as much because maybe I thought it was ticking too much. So if I set it at 100, it would be the equivalent of me playing it at the speed of 200. So this is beating it, oh, this is only beating every two beats. So play around with it if you want to. It's entirely up to you, if whatever you want to do. But if you're lucky enough to have sort of crotchet equals 60, then that's going to be perfect on there. But if you want it to tick every single beat, then just count how many beats you've got in the bar. So if you've got 2 beats in a bar, then you want to make sure that you're getting those 2 clicks at the speed you want to play it at. If you wanted it to click twice as many as that, so if you've got 2/4 and you don't want it to click every 2 crotchets, you want it to click in 4 quavers, then you would need to double that speed that you had. So instead of going 1, 2, 1, 2, it's still the same speed, but it's going 1, 2, 1, 2. It just depends if you've got a lot of quaver notes or semi-quaver notes or whatever you've got in the music there to help you. But, you know, what's the worst that can happen? Have fun with it, mess around with it. You're not going to break anything. Just go for it and just experiment with it. They're very simple to use. They're not complicated. Once you've got the hang of them, you'll love it and it'll be great. So you won't break it, just go for it, have fun with it. So I hope this video's helped you. Please subscribe if you like my videos and things. I've got loads more videos coming up, and check out all my old videos and that kind of stuff. But if you have any comments, as usual, leave them in the comment box underneath. I'm trying my absolute best to respond to every single comment, but please don't be offended if I don't answer a comment. It might just be that I'm busy, or you know, sometimes I don't always get the comments, they don't always come through, but leave a comment and I will try my absolute best to try and answer the question for you, or someone else might be kind enough to answer if they get in there before me. So thank you guys for that. I'll catch you all next time. Hi.